the denizens of the dark, cloaked in blackest shadow. We are the fallen angels, soaring through ebon skies upon ravens' wings. We are the wolves that prowl the midnight hours to prey upon the harmless. We are the descendants of the dragon's blood, the keepers of the ancient flame. We are the chosen ones, who dare to explore the mysteries of the unseen realms. We are Legion, for we are many. And united, we cannot be vanquished.
Tabby, she got real clingy. She always wanted to be with me. Then I told her, well, you're gonna be with me now, because I'm going to skin you and eat your flesh and make a chair out of your bones and make us human skin cushions that I sit on, so you'll always be close to me. But you can't see it, but it's her face right there. She's kissing my ass every day. Who's laughing now, Tabby?
Now I write my annual account to Kronos as my thanks to him for his help, an agreement we had made so that the world would not forget him or his people. His assistance has both helped save myself and those who came after me from certain death. Once again, my ancient ancestor, I thank you. The entire event began on January 16th, 2016. I sat picking through the files of the Bilderberg Foundation's archives hidden and stashed within the Iron Mountain Facilities vault, where all the greatest artwork and other objects of material wealth was held. I saw many once cherished items there, the tapestry of the Shiva Prava, computer systems involved with linking and accessing the primordial Terraformed vessel, along with every journal entry and grimoire written by my Titan ancestors, was hidden and stashed down here in this secret vault. All the other artifacts were of no concern to me, but the Shiv Prava tapestry stood out to me. The tapestry itself was over 3,000 years old, and was only a partial image of what it once was, but regardless of the fact, I saw within my mind the full mantra, as if I knew it well once. Going through and extracting what information I needed from my ancestors' notes, the ways of empathically speaking with animals, and emulating their sensory skills, the way of shamanic weather control, and elemental transcendence. All wisdom recorded by my ancestors and lost to their descendants lay within this vault. I wrote down what I could and made my way towards the exit, as they had become aware of my intrusion, but were powerless to stand in my way. What had drawn me there had to do with a major concern among the scientific community. Climate change was the main subject, but there was another issue that was not caused by the cycle pattern of this event, but it was affecting it nonetheless. A major tilt in the Earth's axis was throwing our planet off balance, and they were trying to figure out the cause of this. They did not think it had anything to do with any naturally caused events, and believed it may be artificial at its source. The question of what was occurring within the core of our world had come into question, but they did not have the means in which to see into the planet's core. So I searched through the compiled notes of my ancestors' journals to try and find a way to achieve this, and my attention kept getting drawn back towards this tapestry. The compiled notes on this mantra was that it was a tool or method that was reserved for only one being to be capable of using, for only he would know how to use it. This being was said to be depicted in the Hindu religions as a three-headed being that was their understanding of who the creator was. When I got home, I sat down and drew out the mantra I saw within my mind. It was simple in its process I was familiar with. It was an exercise that was common for those who have learned the ways of magic known as the tempering of the mystic flame of the Athan. So I sat down and called forth the elemental forces to their respective corners, for it said something similar to what the plot of the Fifth Element movie was built on. that there was a sixth known force that only would be revealed by the one who was meant to use this mantra, which basically translated to the living vessel of the Creator himself, and I found myself pausing only for a moment to ask myself if I really thought I was God. Despite the propaganda and focusing on the fact that I fit the role of one who knew this method and could successfully perform this mantra, I sat down and began the process. Maintaining the balance as to not disturb the flow of the flames as I sat in meditation, when suddenly a light of divinity appeared from what seemed to be within me. The sixth element of life's essence comprised of the other five forces hovered above me and fused with the other elements as I struggled to regulate the energy flow and usage, trying to maintain that equilibrium of balance. Then suddenly the raw essence of the earth itself became fused into this merger of energies as I became surrounded and infused within a shell of elemental material, and my mind became one with the very earth itself. Suddenly I knew of every breeze of wind, where it came from, what caused it, every storm, and every aspect that occurred upon the earth. Realizing what the potential of this mystical suit of armor could do, I prepared and designed a plan to enter the core of the planet so that I could observe the core and find what was causing the tilt in our axis. But first I had to create some sort of safety measure in case I failed and somehow destroyed the planet. Knowing the possibilities of this power, if I made a mistake, I thought to myself, if I could manifest the elemental forces in such a way, maybe I could design a method in which I could record large amounts of data. I knew of a method in which crystals could be used to store data within the reflections of light that enter a crystal and are bounced around within it. Using this method, if I could create enough crystals formed from ice in a certain way, then I could use a small portion of each creature's life force pattern and create a model of every creature's complete molecular structure. This way, if I failed or made a mistake that blew up the earth, I could recreate it, put everything back into place using the data within the crystals, as if nothing had ever happened. So first I had to find a large enough place to store so many crystals, and found the cave in the Bugatti Mountains in Romania to be perfect for such a task. Next I went out, and while mankind and animals slept or watching TV, or for the fish, I waited until they were feeding so that all their minds were distracted and unaware that I was stealing a portion of their thoughts for their synaptic brain waves. Held the key to the information that I needed. Once complete, I created the crystals by freezing the moisture in the air surrounding me. Then I melted the ice while suddenly flash freezing the water instantly as I used the electricity of lightning to create the impression of crystal-like reflections within the ice, creating the perfect imitation of a crystal formed from the natural elemental forces. The time of year and the atmosphere within the hollow mountain gave the perfect conditions I needed to preserve the ice from melting. Next I began my descent into the depths of the planet. This mystical suit gave me the ability to fuse and become one with the earth. So down I dove through the rock and sediment, passing through layer after layer of earth. As I dove down, I passed by this large cavern-like pocket beneath the crust near the outer mantle. There seemed to be this fluid-like substance, what seemed like petrol, and it smelled dank and heavy, thick with an oil-like viscosity to it. I noticed what seemed like a reddish clay-like substance coming from a crack along the wall. I shrugged and continued downward and soon passed through a space between the sediment crust and the outer mantle that led into the core. It looked like the atmosphere layer on one of the rings from that game Halo. A good mile or two seemed to separate the ceiling from the floor, and a vast pocket of ocean water seemed to fill the space between them. Onward I dove down, and as I passed the outer mantle rock that encased the core of our planet, I paused, gripping the rock as I hung above a vast pool of bright yellow magma. There looked like a space of around 3 miles of a drop between the ceiling of the inner mantle and the lava core stretched out before me. Seeing that there was no other option to reach my intended purpose here, I let go of the ceiling and dropped into the magma basin below. The surface was like a thick goo, but beneath that was a layer of space that was separated by what seemed like a magnetic bubble. Within the core of that bubble was what seemed like gaseous, volatile clouds that reacted with each other violently. I've seen these types of reactions before, Within the core of our planet are the same types of elements found within the reactive fusion processes of a star, but not as many. It seemed like only a small portion of the gases found to comprise a star's structure were here. I looked across the layer of the mantle core and found the source of the problem. Outside of this inner plasma core were two major elements I recognized, nickel and iron ore, but it seemed like there was a severe lack of iron ore, and because of this the nickel had become displaced from its position. The two elements that rotated around the core seemed to be both held in place and emulated as well some type of electromagnetic force. This magnetized effect held the nickel and iron into their respective places that allowed the elements to rotate counterclockwise from each other, but because of the lack of iron ore, the nickel had slipped out of place slightly, causing an oblong shape to form from it. Thinking to myself, well, if I can generate elemental forces like fire and ice, then I could do the same with iron. It was just heavier and more condensed was all. Fusing and condensing the others, I recreated the necessary iron needed to set us back into place. My attention was drawn away and I created slightly too much iron. What distracted me was that I was being drawn into the core and I could not get out from it. I tried to reposition myself but found I was stuck like I was in quicksand. Now all the while I had been able to feel and sense the texture and density of the rocks as I passed through them, but now I began to feel the intensity of the heat slowly warming my skin. Portions of my skin in various spots began to feel sort of numb and heavier than the rest of my body as my skin was beginning to turn into the elements I was fusing and passing through. Here I sat stuck. I could not simply detach myself from the elemental form as we were joined as one. Then I remembered the legends of my ancestors, and that Atlas had been known to dwell within these regions. I wondered if maybe he had left some sort of warning in case others had discovered how to walk the same path as he did and may find themselves stuck like I was. Using my mystic energy, I swept it across the ceiling and found a mystic glyph used to store messages and activated its content. A large Gaia-like face made of rock and stone appeared before me and spoke words I could not understand at first. Then his eyes glowed, and I could hear his words. He explained that this was left in case anyone ventured into this realm and became trapped. He said that all he asked for his help was to tell people of this encounter so that his people would not be forgotten. He said to exit the grasp of the center of the earth, what is in front of me must become what is behind me. And then he vanished and the glyph stopped glowing. I thought for a second as the flames from the core began to take shape behind the blackness of my eyelids. So understanding his meaning, I reversed my every step, every force of both momentum I used to descend, and every element I passed through along the way, but in a complete sense of reversed inertia. Up I began to ascend from the core. Reaching up and grasping the ceiling of the core, I then began rising from the rock sediment. Back through the crust I ascended until I grew close to the surface. My physical body could feel the tremor of my tightened footsteps as I grew close, and as I breached the surface I could feel the cool air on my tightened face. I dispelled the elemental balances that maintained my titan form and set them back into place as it then began to dissolve from around me. Lilith sat there with wide eyes staring not at me but around me, as she had sensed the presence of my titan form and heard the rumbling of my footsteps as I grew close. Then I collapsed from exhaustion as though I had been hard at work all day and slept as sound as a mouse that night. Later that week I had noticed that the tilt in our axis had ceased and settled into a 15-degree position, and the oscillating wobble our planet had developed was gone and back to normal. So thus ends my tale of my encounter with my ancestor Kronos, and my remembrance that I have erected here annually to honor his help and his wishes, so that he and his people are not forgotten. Ciao, Bella.
I have many, many holiday memories. Some good, some bad. I remember one time, Mama Krampus was cooking our traditional holiday ham, and the pressure cooker exploded. The lid flew across the room and struck Mama in the temple, killing her instantly. The ham, it ricochets off the ceiling and hits my little brother Klaus, killing him instantly. Of course we ate the ham. Right after we ate Mama and Klaus. Ah, good old memories.
You know, I thought about something. For ages the position of my order has always passed along the conquered achievements of their era and passed them along to the devil they select for the next era. Then I realized I don't have one cause. I never looked at my allies that way. So I should at least begin a dictation on the qualities I shall seek to find the devil, the persona of sin, for the next age, to come after us, if there is one. So first thing I will look for is a guy who can imitate the role and be detached from temptation when in character. Someone who can project a first impression that others are able to sense who he is without having to say a word to him. Yet at the same time remain emotionally bland. Also he will have to have someone with a genuine interest in the details of evil, and be at least partially mentally stable. He also must have an eye for opportunity and can adapt in constantly changing social settings. One last thing is he must be a rebellious spirit. He naturally dares the system and status quo, or at least is compelled to stand up for the innocent against those who try to dominate over others.
Escaped Hades itself. There was but one task left.
Zeus! Do you see now what your son can do? You cast your favor on Athena, but her sticky lies and ruins before me. And now, even Pandora's box is mine. Would you have me use it against Olympus itself? Kratos returned even from the underworld. Is this the best you can do, Father? You send a broken mortal to defeat me, the god of war?
She offers no absolutes. She tells me worship in the bedroom. The only heaven I'll be sent to when I'm alone with you. I was born sick, but I love it. Command me to be well still. Amen. 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 Take me to church. I worship like a dog at the shrine of your life. I'll tell you my sins and you can sharpen your knife. Offer me that death instead, the good God. Let me give you my life.
The rest I can shape him into. Oh yes. I plan on haunting the shit out of whoever this is. They'll probably dub him an Antichrist, which can be subtext and split into so many different definitions just by his title as the son of the devil. If you want to see it from an angelic perspective, Satan, though the concept is reference to a fallen angel but nonetheless still an angel, meaning he's anatomically correct and ill-equipped to have a child, so therefore a son of such beings usually were a reference to a protege or acolyte that has personally been trained by the individual, but because we are talking about me, who defies all boundaries and barriers just to linger on the edge of understanding to all who see him, then most likely out of defiance, he probably found a way around that. Which of course I did. However, when it comes time to face the angelic gallows for the recent seed of my loins that broke that rule, I would like to have the child checked to see whose angelic roots the child came from. To birth an angelic, half-human half-angel is a very consensual deed. It takes pre-planning and finesse with a precision in vitro technique that cannot be rushed. Not only was the conception a rushed scenario, but it was never intended by me. You see, to plant the seed of light within a mortal, you must take a fabric of the light of an angel's grace and phase through all the layers of skin and muscle to reach the womb, pass through the egg layers and plant the light within the egg. Then you must retract your wing back out, all without disturbing the structure of the particle of your luminous being and causing it to fall apart, while also being sure not to disturb the egg within the womb while entering and exiting it. This is the most an angel can experience when it comes to child rearing. There is no sexual act required.
For a brick, he flew pretty good.
Chief, get inside. Gear up. We're taking this fight to the surface.
I have many, many holiday memories. Some good, some bad. I remember one time, Mama Krampus was cooking our traditional holiday ham, and the pressure cooker exploded. The lid flew across the room and struck Mama in the temple, killing her instantly. The ham, it ricochets off the ceiling and hits my little brother Klaus, killing him instantly. Of course we ate the ham. Right after we ate Mama and Klaus. Ah, good old memories.